So, for today, we are playing Vampire Coast and Empire. For game number 1, we are up against Francis and his own empire, bringing in the usual Coast style of deck gunners, Noctilus, a ton of zombies, and of course, some scurvy dogs, and this time, deck dropper bombers. The mobility should be quite strong. But we're seeing immediately double Hellstorm rocket battery coming in from my opponent. A very expensive investment. And we'll see if we can punish my opponent for that. The firing in onto my handguns, definitely a strong choice. They will likely be able to take them out given enough time. We'll throw down a heal though, just overcast, since it's fairly efficient. And we're going to start shooting these Knights of the Blazing Sun with Noctilus. The deck gunners are spread out enough where the Hellstorm rocket batteries can't really they can't really target the deck gunners and kill them too quickly. So we're pretty comfortable there. And with our dogs, we'll just start getting them into position. Now it looks like Noctilus marching suicidally forwards for whatever reason. Hopefully he'll be able to target down these Knights of the Blazing Sun before marching into Huntsman fire, but apparently not. Something apparently blocking line of sight there. Not sure exactly what's going on, but definitely a little bit of a problem. Now, as we get closer, our deck gunners will be able to start firing, and we can camp out here and just fire with them. We'll heal up our we'll heal up the deck gunners, as they are very integral for this build. And we'll also focus down this Bright Wizard. So let's see here. He is throwing down a Burning Head, and he will be able to catch a lot of my handguns here. A little bit unfortunate. A bit of a miss micro from me. We actually, we let some of our troops get caught up. Our handguns actually lined up. That did not go too well, but nevertheless, we can continue our advance. Oh, whoops. Deck gunners on 5. Oh my gosh, my hotkeys. Yeah, so a little bit of a miss micro there, but should still just be fine. We're going to advance with our infantry, since we outnumber on that front. And we're just going to get into the fight as quickly as possible. We'll throw down a zombie summon onto that Hellstorm rocket battery. We do want to shut it down as quickly as we can. Our zombie front line should be able to make it to the front. However, how are things going? Balance of power still pretty even. We're about to lose a unit of deck gunners. We'll throw down a heal on it. It might be wasted, but in this case it looks like it actually does pay off. And that means that we'll be able to continue firing away with our deck gunners, heading into the mid game. Volkmar is getting closer, which means that we'll have to worry about him. So we're going to start focusing him with the handguns. That's the best way to really keep him off of our backs. And then we'll take out the 2 Hellstorm rocket batteries with our deck dropper bombers. Now the front line is still has a little bit to worry about in terms of actually holding. And yeah, we'll have to be quite careful there. The front line, if it breaks, he'll be able to dive in on my deck gunners and generally cause a lot of problems. Dogs will just keep the knights busy by hanging around the back, but not really taking too many committed engagements. Pull back Noctilus now to make sure that he stays safe. And let's see, the deck gunners are going to focus fire on the knights. We do actually get some of our dogs charged, which is a big misplay from us. But we've routed off a lot of the Empire backline. Noctilus will be able to begin firing sideways onto the knights there. And if we can keep our dogs alive, then I'll be feeling pretty confident. Volkmar is once again diving in. We'll have to worry about that. And we're going to turn guns and fire on him. Let's see, that should work out pretty well. And we're going to also bring in some deck droppers to clear up these flagellants. Flagellants are actually about to win that frontline fight. Let's see here. As for Volkmar, seems like he is just causing a ton of pain here. And the fact that we don't have any handguns is what really hurts. Let's see, we'll have to use a zombie summon here. And oh, it looks like we lost a unit of dogs back there. That's actually pretty bad. And now we're a little bit worried. Get a zombie summon in on top of these archers. And continue focus firing Volkmar. Let's see, we can make a pistol summon over here. And we need the deck gunners to clear up those knights for sure. Let's see here, Noctilus. We're going to summon some pistols over here to stop Volkmar. But it seems like it keeps getting cancelled. I'm not sure exactly what's happening there, but nevertheless, we'll keep going on. And the priority here is to keep these dogs alive. They are oh so very important for actually winning out the game here. They're healthy enough where I think they can fight off these Empire Knights. And as for Volkmar, we'll continue focus firing him with our guns. He is quite a scary target. He is doing a lot of damage to Noctilus too. But given the current position, we should be able to take him out. Scurvy dogs are doing fine. And we have the deck dropper bombers moving in to clear up the infantry. Now if we can actually finish off Volkmar here, that would be the best case scenario. But the fact that the knights are actually closing in onto the deck gunners now may very well spell our doom. But nevertheless, Volkmar is extremely low. We actually do manage to kill him. And that may be the turn that we needed. Now, scurvy dogs are especially important here because they're great versus infantry. And by keeping them alive, we should be good. We're going to use our next Nahek on them. And the deck gunners have sort of, they've done their job. Having cleared up all of the elite Empire troops. I think we might have just barely scrapped it out. Surprisingly enough. I would have thought that game was lost, but looks like we just barely did it. Volkmar just getting a tiny little bit too aggressive. Getting just barely killed. But that was quite close for sure. Nevertheless, never let up. Vampire Coast can be prone to actually taking a loss even after securing a lead like this. Just because archers and the like can do a lot of damage. So we'll have to be a bit careful there. We'll send in our bats to rout off these archers. And the fact that we still have dogs alive too is a saving grace for us. They'll be able to clear up the flagellants, the archers, and so on. And as soon as these knights get terror routed by Noctilus, the dogs should be able to help there too. Now, they are healthy enough and at high enough leadership where I don't think they really need to be, where I don't think they need to be healed. So instead, we're going to heal up Noctilus to keep him alive. Use a Wraith Storm to hit up these spearmen. And then the dogs to rout off the cavalry. And there we go. The GG from my opponent. And we just barely managed to scrape it by. Definitely a pretty sketchy game. Had we gone for a full-out rush, we likely would have been able to win quite handily there if we went for a Leviathan rush. But even with double Sunmaker, we still managed to pull through. He killed a lot of my handguns early on, especially with Burning Head. And in the future, I'll have to be careful not to line them up. Usually this build has Sirens too, which would have been really good for pushing along the sides. But yeah, this worked out okay. The deck dropper bombers actually got a lot of value, 2,000 in total, and yeah, Noctilus did well too. So GG. So on to the next game, where we are still playing against Francis, and we've bought an Empire build, taken a lot of artillery for ourselves, and we're going to be skirmishing him out with these Pistoliers and the war wagons. It appears that he has gone for some trebuchets here, and we shall be advancing just to move up our artillery in range. Immediately though, I think the Did I just friendly fire my own war wagons with my cannon? I feel like I might have. But lessons learned. Try to avoid that for next time, and I'm going to start pressuring my opponent. Oh no, the trebuchet shots are just really hard to see. Okay. They hit my pistoliers. They're doing a lot of damage. So we're going to need to slow advance with our artillery here, while putting in constant pressure with our skirmishers. Marcus, they'll be moving up. He has a net, and if we can throw that down on these guys, that could be big. We're going to throw it down onto the paladin here, and we're going to use our handgunners to fire in. That should be able to take him out. And we're going to pull back our halberds so that we get some better lines of fire on top of that paladin. Looks like a big old spell coming over there on top of my artillery pieces. We're going to see if they're actually taking a lot of damage, so we'll drop the artillery just so that we can get them out of there before they die, hopefully. We did manage to catch out a paladin, which is actually a huge play. And there we go. He's actually fully shattered. So that's a nice win for us, but our opponent is still in a pretty scary position. The fact that his infantry is quite strong and that he has 3 trebuchets just constantly peppering us is quite rough. But now our cannons are in range. We can start bombarding the questing knights, and our mortars can focus these archers. Skirmishers will be dealing with the heroes, and same with Marcus, who will be moving in to set up for another net. So on the single entity front, I think we're doing pretty good. Some big spells coming in from my opponent though. Oh man, Comet is coming down. It looks like we might just barely be able to dodge it though. And it seems like it will rout my troops. But maybe not, we'll have to see. Meanwhile, the paladin getting taken out by the war wagons is great. And we just have to worry about the cavalry now for our opponent. So that's pretty good. Let's see here. Our artillery crews are having a pretty rough time though. And this is usually why artillery can be pretty risky as the Empire. But nevertheless, it's distracting the trebuchets at the very least. We've routed off one of the peasant bowmen. And I think our front line is probably in a pretty strong lead. So we're going to take that advantage, advance with our army, and now our pistoliers are going to be moving in along the left flank to stop cavalry from moving in. We cycle charging with our own cavalry, and Marcus will continue to advance, trying to snipe out the Fey Enchantress. Pistoliers are moving in. War wagons can deal with the archers fairly well. They're quite high armored, which is good. Silver bullets are shooting too, and we're routing off the Bretonian front line. Our artillery is operational and firing in on cavalry. So generally, things are looking quite good. And the pistoliers on this cavalry here. And we still have all of our infantry. The Fey Enchantress too is in a little bit of a vulnerable position, and I'm very much looking to get into a sniping position on top of her. So I'm thinking we'll move up Marcus Wolfhart. We'll let's see here. We'll start summoning a manticore. We're going to net her down, and then we're going to focus fire. So that should work out quite well. Continue moving up with our infantry since we have that clear advantage. But actually the net runs out before the manticore can show up. A little bit of a mistiming for me. I thought the net would last longer. But it may not matter, because the manticore still makes contact with the Fey Enchantress. And with a mass rout on the Bretonian left flank, I'm feeling quite comfortable now. Let's see, we have another manticore summoned too in the back pocket. Tons of infantry to deal with the knights. And we'll even break off a unit of pistoliers to chase off the Fey Enchantress. And also, we'll use the pistoliers to hit up the trebuchets and shut them down. Some knights are managing to fit into my back line though, but at this point I think we've secured enough of a lead where we're not too worried. See, Fey Enchantress is on her way out, and with that I think we're good. It's just some cavalry and trebuchets left, which is not especially threatening versus my current composition. We still have 2 units of halberds at full HP. And we also have the war wagons that are quite healthy too. Now let's see, the cavalry is getting microed as well as possible, but it doesn't look like that'll be enough. And we can even summon a second Manticore if we feel a bit threatened here. Left flank continuing to push through. Fey Enchantress nearly out of the battle. It's just dealing with the cavalry now. And I really think that initial engagement, taking that solid lead on the hero front by sniping them out, really helped here. If the double paladin were still alive, then yeah, if the two paladins were still alive, they would have been able to dive in onto my back line and shut down my artillery, and that would have caused a ton of problems. But just using our nets effectively and catching them out helped out a great deal. Now the war wagons are running out of ammo now. So how good is their charge bonus? They have a charge bonus of 29, surprisingly high actually. So we're going to see how well they do versus these peasants. And it seems like they do decent damage. They'll probably be better suited charging into these archers, and that's what we're going to do with them. Some cavalry is also shutting down my mortar by the looks of it. We're not too worried there. Just that we have to be careful not to throw this game, actually taking stock of our armies. The small amount of remaining cavalry could sort of divide and conquer me. We definitely don't want that to be happening. What's it? Francis has done a good job, actually. Oh, we finally chased off the Fey Enchantress. Francis has done a good job keeping the trebuchets alive, but they should finally be getting shut down. Peasant archers are no longer firing. And let's see, we'll just summon a Manticore to get the rest of these troops routed off. Should be able to secure the win here, unless there are any hidden units, but it doesn't look like it. And that's going to be GG. Oh boy. Alrighty, so that went out pretty well. Yeah. It went quite well. We sniped out the heroes early. The two paladins both got 0 kills thanks to our skirmishers. The war wagons did surprisingly well, as they were focus firing heroes. And our artillery got outtraded. The main upside is that they were occupying my opponent's artillery for most of the time. So it wasn't the worst trade in the world. The trebuchets did trade up though, and I think in the future I probably won't take as many artillery pieces as Empire. But good stuff. So, for the next best of 3, we're up against Ice Power, countering his Bretonia with Vampire Coast. We brought with us a build to try and deal with the mass peasant bowman tech, avoiding artillery because of the field trebuchets. Hero core is the Fey Enchantress, the Green Knight, and a Paladin. We'll want to make sure that our Rotting Leviathan stays well and far away from that. We're using our handguns to get the majority of the damage dealt here. And we'll see if Luther can get some free shots off on these single entities. Dogs are going to split up to try and pull apart his cavalry. And Luther can dodge pretty easily against Bretonian archers, so he'll just be distracting them. Best of his ability. Our handguns will be able to mulch up the peasant bowmen quite effectively, and we'll be using our breath attacks on the peasant archers. He does pull away, which negates a lot of that damage. But let's see, we are trading. We're trading damage right now. Our handguns are able to fire on peasants, not a great trade. And now we actually have to worry about the peasant archers coming into the engagement. So we'll move up with our forces, move up the animated hulks, and we're going to charge forwards with this Rotting Leviathan. The handguns will be moving up to support it, and Luther will be coming in to deal with the single entities. We have our dogs moving in, and our zombies will be engaging. Single entities are diving in onto my Leviathan. And you know what? Our handguns are far enough up where we can just start charging on in. with our troops. Let's see here, our caster. Get a zombie summon, and our handguns now can fire in onto the cavalry. We have our dogs moving in onto the peasant bowmen, which is nice. Leviathan is coming in too. And let's see, Luther is taking some damage, but we're trading quite well here. However, the paladin causing a little bit of pain. We'll debuff him, and then try and pull Luther to safety now that the cavalry is more pulled apart. Rotting Leviathan is doing a good job keeping the we are routing off the archers, and now Luther can focus on dealing with the Fey Enchantress. So generally some pretty nice trades, and we're also pushing up the frontline fight. Bretonians not known for their strong frontline holding prowess, but there's a little bit of a worry that the cavalry here for Bretonia could cause some problems. However, I think we should still be fine. Luther's going to land in onto these knights, and you can see that the Leviathan is doing its job and actually occupying the cavalry. Now Luther, on the other hand, he's going to be flying over here because we want to prepare for an overcast Nehek to heal up our dogs, but we miss micro that pretty terribly, and it results in only a few dogs getting healed up. So that's a pretty rough situation. Luther now getting focus fired by a lot of peasant archers. We'll have to pull them back, but a big rout from the Bretonian knights is a good sign. Let's see here. Actually, that's a huge rout. We're going to capitalize that by chasing them with Luther. We're going to turn on fire at will, and the Leviathan will likely get sniped out by the single entities here. But chasing off these knights are so important that I think that's going to have to be the plan. Our scurvy dogs are running low on HP, and we're going to throw a heal onto them as soon as we can. And we'll see if we can chase off these knights. They're actually rallying, which is unfortunate, but we are able to rout off some infantry here. It's just that Luther's taking a lot of damage. He does have his regeneration, which helps. And we're going to see if we can save these scurvy dogs while chasing off the rest of these guys. We still have our handgunners, but the single entities here for Bretonia are pretty scary. Let's see here, the knights are rallying too, and that is the beginning of a pretty rough situation. However, it's not the end, it's just that the single entities are quite scary. We'll turn our guns to try and focus fire them. And we'll try and bring Luther into position. I think my Rotting Leviathan micro could have been better. Ooh, and we lose our dogs. That's pretty rough. So let's see how this goes. We have a pistol summon that we can bring to bear. We have a bunch of handguns firing in on the Green Knight, and Luther is coming in hot. His goal is going to be to snipe out the Fey Enchantress. And to do that, we'll throw in a breath attack. We will dive in to dodge all these arrows. Throw in a big old debuff. Continue to lay on the ranged pressure. But the fact that I threw away my scurvy dogs means that these archers will be able to put in a lot of damage. Luther goes down, and I think that's going to be GG. Just based on the single entity pressure. Oh, what the? Oh, wrong button. Wrong button. Ooh. Rough game, but I think it definitely could have been winnable if I had controlled a bit better. What actually happened was I threw away my scurvy dogs. Look at these guys, they got so little damage. What I should have done is kept them more safe to hit up the archers. And then, let's see, to deal with the single entities, the Leviathan could have pushed back the archers too. We had some nice picks early on with the handguns to kill off the knights. You can see that based on their damage value, but just not played optimally. I think our fell bats were sacrificed a bit early too. And against a build like this, of course, artillery would have been a more comfortable position for me. But I think we still did okay. The focused fire did okay, but I don't know. Maybe some long range pressure like deck gunners would have helped. Now for our second game against Ice Power, we've taken some skirmishers to deal with his cavalry. We have, let's see, some Vanguard shenanigans going down, actually, in the forest. And we have a lot of infantry with some guns. So, interesting situation. Luscious Harvesters will be taking a lot of damage from my Outriders on the retreat. At least that's a hope. And it looks like they take a decent amount of damage. So we have a skirmish advantage here. So we'll be trying to use that to the best of our advantage. A big Soul Stealer does come down on my Outriders, but I don't think he'll do too much damage. And we can simply pull them back into safety. Our handgunners will want to pull back to safety, and we're going to start cycle charging with our cavalry while using Volkmar to deal with any infantry fights. Can hold quite long, and since we have the guns here to support, we're actually going to charge him straight up into the Cold One Knights, and we're not too worried about taking that fight. We are seeing that the Lord for my opponent is landing on top of Volkmar. We'll throw down his buffs, give him a huge amount of melee defense. That should have him pretty set for the long haul. It's all the cavalry here is clumped up for my opponent. Can also throw down a bunch of AoEs. And I think that's a pretty nice fight for Volkmar. However, our cavalry engagements haven't gone too well. Nevertheless, Malekith is having a very rough time. Our, let's see here, left flank 2 is holding decently, but not great. And let's see, we're going to try getting a big burning head here. Try and clear up all these Sisters of Slaughter. Looks like it works out quite effectively. And let's see, our handgunners will want to use these guys. Likely to deal with, the cavalry that's now running them over. That's a little bit unfortunate. And we'll see if we can peel for our handgunners here, since they are the main method that we'll be using to try and shield off Malekith. But Volkmar is doing pretty good. He's routed off a lot of these troops. He's going to now push back the cavalry. Our handgunners are going to pull back towards safety. Our Outriders are going to look for a better position to camp out in. And we're just bringing in our cavalry to support, trying to take a big fight in the center here. Looks like a breath attack is coming down, so we're going to disperse some of our infantry, keep them safe. It looks like they avoid most of the damage there. But Malekith is now coming in, and we don't have our guns anymore to support. Big charge onto Volkmar. Going to do a lot of damage. We'll be running with Volkmar to keep him safe. He is unbreakable, so as long as he doesn't get sniped out here, we're good. But a snipe is possible. Going to give him some buffs and continue throwing down AoEs. Using our guns to support. Malekith thankfully misses. Volkmar will be able to continue to run, but if he does die, I think that may just be game right there. Big cavalry charge does come in. We'll throw in a Soulfire to punish them. And we'll throw down a fireball onto Malekith, but I think some misplays there might have cost me the game. We've lost our backline, and I think that's going to be a quick GG. Oh dear. All right, GG, well played. Yeah, I think we had, oh man, I keep hitting the wrong button. I'm hitting F10 because I played Warcraft 3. And that just brings up the army build, but oh man, that was a fast loss. I definitely had some big misplays there. I think using the handgunners to shield Volkmar was really good, and we were able to kill to do a lot of damage to Malekith there. Volkmar with his AoEs helped out a lot too, but I think the cascading fire cloak came in too late. Same with my other spells, like my burning heads could have killed the Sisters of Slaughter faster too. And our cavalry micro actually failed really hard. You can see here 300 and 500 damage value is not enough for Knights of the Blazing Sun. It's something that I will continue to have to work on. But for now, shall move on. The skirmishers actually did pretty well too. But I think our engagements were a little bit botched. The big collapse on the back line too is what really won the game there. Having my guns exposed, let Malekith come back in. From there, that was it.